Unsolved.
Episode 175, Jonbenet case. What is the reason for this fact? This episode is going to present a fact of the case, and then it's going to provide a reason why this person did this. So for example, I will start off with a fact, and then I will explain why Patsy did this and why that fact is there. And then I will explain why John, his reasoning, or why it was done. And then finally I will present a reason for an unknown intruder to leave this fact behind. So let the video with all the answers begin. Patsy had a very long Christmas day, and when the family returned from the Whites' Christmas dinner, Patsy had problems with Jonbenet. Either Jonbenet wouldn't go to bed, or she wet the bed, or there was some other kind of problem. And Patsy, in a rage, accidentally injured Jonbenet by pushing her into the bathtub or into the sink or hitting her with something nearby, like a trophy. And so the reason for Jonbenet's death, cause of death, was for Patsy to cover up her crime. And so she knew about the head injury, but she wanted it to look like someone else did it. And so she took Jonbenet downstairs and made the garrote and made it look like a foreigner had strangled Jonbenet to death. John Ramsey had been molesting Jonbenet, and something happened that night. Either something at the party, like Jonbenet almost gave away or did give away that he was molesting her, or John waited for Patsy to go to bed and he was going to molest her, and something happened. Jonbenet screamed or ran, and he took her to the basement and he strangled her. And while he was strangling her, he took something heavy and hit her on the head to end her life. It's kind of out of frustration of strangling her to death that he hit her in the head. An intruder came into the house to kill Jonbenet or torture her, and he was set on revenge against John Ramsey. And so he made the garrote and tortured her, and he smashed her in the head. Patsy was up all night dealing with this horrible ordeal. First, she spent a great deal of time trying to revive Jonbenet and thinking about what to do. And once the realization came about that there was nothing that she could do for Jonbenet, she had to cover up this crime of hers. And so she came up with a foreigner, and she took her to the basement, strangled her, and then wrote the ransom note. And it's evident because she put Jonbenet lovingly in the white blanket and put her pink Barbie nightgown next to her. John Ramsey put Jonbenet's body in the wine cellar to hide it from Patsy and Burke. And he used that wine cellar as a hiding place already by hiding his cigars in there And so he was planning on moving her body later. And so that was just a temporary place for him to keep her body. The reason an intruder put JonBenet's body in that basement room was to hide it and to implicate the Ramseys. This was all to frame the Ramseys. Patsy Ramsey needed a way to explain that she didn't do this to JonBenet, just like you see in all these other high-profile cases where a mother kills her kids. Somebody else did it, and in Patsy's mind, it was a foreigner. And so she came up with writing this ransom note, and that was to go in line with the Groat killing. It's very much possible in my mind that she wrote the ransom note first, and then that's why the Groat strangling. John Ramsey first conceived of writing the ransom note when he realized in the morning Patsy would be coming downstairs and want to know where JonBenet is. That's where he needed to explain what happened to JonBenet. But as he wrote the ransom note, he saw that this was an excellent way to solve his problem here. Because in the morning, he could dispose of her body on the side of the road somewhere and pretend that he's out collecting the ransom money. And then after the ordeal, he could call the police and let them know what happened. And he didn't get her body back. And then the police would find JonBenet's dead body with the cord wrapped around her neck. And so it would have been clear that it was somebody else. The reason that the intruder wrote the ransom note was he was a friend of John Ramsey or an employee of John Ramsey, and he didn't want them thinking he didn't want to be a suspect. So by writing the ransom note, he would throw off the police, thinking it was a foreign faction or something else, not an employee or friend that was jealous or angry at John Ramsey. Patsy Ramsey just let JonBenet have something to eat when they got home before they went to bed. And it's as simple as that. And that's why the pineapple or whatever it was, whatever food, was just below her stomach. She had digested it in her stomach and it had moved on into her intestines. John Ramsey and Burke were still awake, and Patsy went to bed. And JonBenet ended up getting up for some reason. And John simply just let the kids get some food. Get the bowl of pineapple and the tea. And it's obvious because you could see that from the big giant serving spoon and the way the tea is in the glass, the tea bag in the glass. The intruder didn't feed JonBenet any pineapple. The food in her system was from the White's party. And that's kind of evident because the intruder was there when the Ramsey family got home. And so that's why the food was in her system at the point where it was. Well, this ends this episode of Unsolved. And the reason I presented it in this way is so you could see what seemed more reasonable. Did it seem more reasonable for Patsy, or for John, or for an intruder? What explanations seem to make the most sense. I know how I feel. So I'll see you the next time on Unsolved.